If your goal is to make your first $100,000 in a month or tack on that next $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to your business, this video is going to break down exactly how to go from zero all the way to $100K a month. And it is way simpler than most people realize. And the reason I'm recording this in the first place is because as I've stepped outside of my own business, what I've come to realize is there are certain decisions that are being made as we search to tack on the next $100K a month that have caused us to stray away from what works. Very simply put, all out of biasing towards efficiency over the goal, which is another 100 grand. And so this video is going to break down step by step, one, the frame of mind you need to be in order to tack on that next 100K a month, and when to begin to pivot your thinking so that you can achieve the result that you want. I don't care if you sell an information product. I don't care if you run a local based business. And if you're raising capital, this is how to get that next $1 million a lot more efficiently than you probably currently are approaching it. So 0 to 100K a month is a lot less complicated than most people realize. And I go to a story from a friend and client of mine who had a student inside of his own info product that blew his mind. He was a student or a friend of his. I tell this all the time, where this guy did $100,000 a month with a fucking, excuse my French, piece of paper and a phone. That's it. He had a VA he paid like $4 an hour to. He used a piece of paper and a phone. And it was a sales-based business. So all he would do, say, this is who I talk to. These are my dials. These are my pickups. These are my closed deals. He would sit there and just tally. And at the end of the day, he'd grab his phone. Just think of this as a phone. Take a photo of it. Send it off. It is that simple. Now, is this going to help you achieve true scale? No. But this explains a very, very important principle that a lot of people get wrong when trying to tack on that next 100K a month. Keep it simple. The problem that majority of beginners run into, or people who have built organic-based businesses to start, and maybe they've done 10 or 20K, is they are way too concerned with the most robust systems so that they can just step away from the business. Business is not supposed to be sunshine and rainbows. So why are you thinking that in the beginning you need one ICP or one ideal consumer? Why are you thinking that you can only sell one product? Why does that product have to have component A, component B, component C? Why does it have to be so systematized? It's not how it works. As you scale, and we'll get into what this looks like, you will need this. But when you first start, because again, this video is explaining 0 to 100K and beyond. At $0, you need to sell shit. I don't care what it is. Go mow lawns, go wash cars, go do something that will bring cash flow into the business. It does not matter what it is, because you do not have a business until you can hire people to do the job for you. And when you're at 0, hiring out of nowhere is the dumbest shit in the world because you don't even know what you're selling yet. So let's start there. $0, you need to learn what to sell. We do this by just slinging shit. For example, let's take this business. If I run a marketing agency, I'm not just going to say, oh, I only do websites, or I only do ads, or I only do email. Again, from 0 to 1. So I want to make sure this is very clear when I say this. When I first get started, I'm not just going to go, oh, I do websites, oh, I do ads, oh, I do emails. What I'm going to do is going to say, oh, this person is going to give me money. What marketing services can I offer them to make that money? That's it. As soon as I begin to have money, then I begin building systems. But in the beginning, and that's supposed to be a gear, but in the beginning, there's no reason for me to be building all of these fancy systems because I don't even have money. And this is where realistically 0 to like 30K people get it wrong. Because if I sell a website for 10K, I sell an ad package for 10K, I run emails for 5, maybe I sell another for 10. I've sold 4 things and I'm at 50 grand a month. Yet people will sit here and say, oh, I don't do websites. I don't do ads. I don't do emails. I'm not going to sell it. It's like, that's the dumbest thing ever. So 0 to 1, we'll say realistically 0 to 50K a month, depending on your pricing, make money. Once you've done this and you've crossed your first 20, 30, 40K a month, whatever it is, this is when an agency like ours will step in because there's a shift that needs to occur inside of the business. If you've gotten this thing to 50K a month, you have been able to acquire resources. You have built up some bit of capital that you can then use to deploy and scale your business, which is awesome. Now's the time to take it to the next level because you can't keep doing what you're doing to get to that next spot. At the end of the day, a glorified freelancer, or you sell some information product and you're doing the sales, you're doing the marketing, you're fulfilling on the thing, you're making the content, you're filming the ads, you're doing everything that you need to do to get to that 50K a month. Once you've done that though, and your time to scale, this is when the hiring process begins. But before you can start to hire, we have to create SOPs to systematize everything that we are doing. Typically, the way we like to do this is start with what has been proven to work. If I have sold websites consistently, or I've gotten people a certain result through an information product consistently, I will then begin to systematize it. If we take a step back, one thing we also recommend when going from 0 to 50K a month is because, again, there's no systems. Just because on the operations side you don't have systems also means on the product side you shouldn't necessarily have the most robust systems. Now, with everything, you need to have a base level, like an onboarding process that runs through Google Forms that goes to a spreadsheet that you like manually do yourself. Or let's say you're in a coaching business, you run group calls, you record the calls, you share them with people, but you don't need to have a 40-hour course built out to launch your offer. You don't need to have the nicest truck and uniforms to launch your offer. If I go back to the first business I ever started with a business partner. It was a detailing company. And I'll never forget, I was like, yeah, we need hats, we need polos, we need a nice car, we need all this stuff. And my business partner at the time goes, are you stupid? No, you don't. You need to make money. Use that money to go buy your uniforms. And I was like, no way, no way, no way people are going to do this. Turns out they love it. They don't care. Two young dudes come to the house to come clean the car. Like, we're happy to support. This goes for anything. You know, if I run a marketing agency, do you see me wearing something with a logo? Do you see me in a fancy office? No, because I don't need to. You just need to prove expertise. You need to be able to get people a result. The rest of the stuff comes later as you start scaling. So again, I go back to keep it simple, be archaic, make the money. Once we've started making money, then we can begin systematizing things. And I always recommend starting with the very simple functions that you do on a day-to-day basis, or the stuff that's not going to change at scale. For example, are there things I do in the fulfillment process? Are there things I do admin day to day? Are there emails I'm checking all the time? Is there sheets of data I'm checking all the time, inputting data for? We're going to start with the things that are more internal to the business, because there's one concept that is extremely important to understand. And there's a video on the channel about focus where we run through this a little bit more. If you are looking to understand where to focus or where you're at in your business, what point you believe you're stuck at, you can book all Speak to Us. We'll run through this whole exercise with you. But what I want you to do is do what's called a time audit and look for the different dollar per hour tasks that you do. What are they and how much do they pay you per hour? Because once I've done that, again, usually it starts here. But what I want to do is I want to slowly start systematizing and replacing one by one until all of my time is spent doing the highest dollar per hour actions. So in this business, outreach, filming content like this, top 2 activities I can be doing as a business owner. Fulfillment comes 3 because we run a revenue share model on a lot of clients. But all we're doing is we're doing a time audit. We're looking at where we spend our time in a day, and we're just outsourcing everything, systematizing everything that makes us less than our highest dollar per hour task. And we're going to continuously repeat this exercise inside the business. So that's what'll take you from that 50K to that 100K a month mark, generally speaking. The other big thing that's important to note with this specifically is to get to 100K, you don't always need to make hires. I have clients where their business got to a couple $100,000 solo, maybe a VA. So you don't necessarily need to hire to get to this point. What you need to do is you need to learn to maximize your output. Is there an AI tool we can use? Is there something I'm doing that's not even worth my time? Am I wasting my time on some shit? I want to, again, audit my time and look for what I can do, because my goal is to first maximize my own output and then go higher. And here's where I think is interesting is a lot of newer guys and gals will fall into this trap of, okay, I'm going to maximize my output. That means I'm working 14 hours a day. Ironically enough, sometimes what this means is instead of working 14 hours and maybe you're working 12 to get to this point, you drop activities and you pull back to 9 to 10 hours a day. And maybe you get more done because now you have time to spend with your wife and kids or your girlfriend or your family or your friends. And maybe that allows you to propel forward. That's something I've realized about myself is I have no problem sitting here for 14 hours a day. What happens is it becomes very mundane. And so as a business owner, what I do is I force myself out of the house. Hey, we're going to go see this person. Hey, we're going to go skiing this weekend. Just for a day, sometimes just for an hour, sometimes 30 minutes on a walk. But you need to learn how to maximize your output. Again, with keeping one thing in mind, how much money am I making? And then obviously, are my clients happy depending on the business? But number one priority is, am I making more money from the shift in behavior that has occurred? From 100K plus, typically this is when hiring begins to occur. Again, like I said, you can get to 100 grand a month taking all the sales calls by yourself. You can get to these different stages by doing all the fulfillment yourself. If I take sales calls 4 times a day, 4 hours out of my day, I fulfill for 4 hours, and I do advertising for 4 hours, that's a 12-hour day. You can build a business doing that. Straight up. You do like 4, 4, 4, 12 hours, 3 shifts, done. Easy. Beyond that though, when you want to scale, bare minimum, you need to start hiring salespeople. Bare minimum. If you can still handle the fulfillment, maybe you sell an information product and all you're doing is running calls, you still need salespeople. And so that 100K a plus a month mark is when you start bringing people on. Again, depending on price point, this may change, but this could be, maybe I have 1 rep that makes me 200K a month. Because again, if we just look at how most closers are compensated, if they get 10%, that's 20K a month. That's pretty good, but they're making you 200. A lot of people are so quick to hire. They're like, oh, I need a sales rep. And it's like, bro, you're making 10K a month. Who's going to work for you at 10% for $1,000? Makes no sense. Nobody would do that. And so that's the big thing when going past 100K. And the key principle I want to explain here, guys, this isn't a long video, as I'm sure you're looking for some secret sauce. If you want to see how to go from where you're at to that next place, you can click the link below, book, speak to the team. But the number one priority here, guys, is keep it simple. Keep it simple. Really take a step back and look at where you're at in your business currently. What are you doing revenue wise? Let's say you're doing 30 grand. How much more could you squeeze out of your day? And how much more revenue do you think you can make? If you can go from 30 to 50, 30 to 60 grand a month, great, do it. Don't spend half your day building some fancy fucking system that you don't even have. Because the last concept that we'll explain that I think is extremely important to know is the power of feedback loops. And they will typically create a false feedback loop in their head. I can't get feedback from myself. If you've ever met somebody with a super inflated ego, 9 times out of 10, it's because they have not sought feedback from anybody else. And maybe they have all the material things they want. Maybe they've got the great family at home. Maybe they do have it all. If you're the person with a big ego and you go ask somebody who has a big ego, like, hey, you got any feedback for how I'm acting right now? Now, I guarantee you, as long as they're your friend and they feel comfortable expressing this to you, they'll be like, yeah, dude, you've been an absolute douchebag recently. And that's what a feedback loop is, because I can still have everything, but if I don't pull in any external data, I'm not going to grow. And so that's the goal of the business is, again, in marketing, if I'm running ads, that data comes from my ICP. So we put money in, we run an ad, and then the people we're trying to sell to give us the data to tell us where to then put our money or tell us what ads to make next. If I look at fulfillment, a customer hands me money, we go do work. Well, how do we know if the work's good? You got to seek out the customer, and the customer will tell you, hey, that's good work, do more of it, and then I will pay you more money. Feedback loops are the only other principle. And so at the end of the day, if we're keeping it simple and we're looking for feedback loops, I'm not going to build something out with my own internal, like big brained, whatever you want to call it, thoughts. I'm just going to go try to solve the problem. I'm going to seek to learn from somebody that's done it already, or I'm going to just get the data from my customers. What's breaking? What do I need to solve for? What might break next based on what currently broke? But I'm not thinking super far ahead, especially in this early stage, because this is a small business. If you're doing less than, I think it's like what, 10 million a year or 8 million a year, you're a small business. That's over $1 million a month. We're talking about 100K a month plus. You know, it's not a crazy business. So stop treating it like it's some giant robust thing. Because the other thing that's really, really cool when you start getting into these higher numbers is you get to hire people that know more than you do and that will solve the problems for you. And so again, there wasn't a ton of structure to this video, but I hope it explains some pretty key concepts when it comes to scaling aggressively and scaling the right way. I think this is a lesson that recently I've had to relearn myself inside my own business, because we've gotten to relatively high numbers and sustained without any big leaps, any big changes, because we've been set in our ways of this works, keep doing this, don't change up, don't try to sell other shit. And so that's why I want to put this together so you don't make the same mistake that we're making currently and you can begin to scale aggressively. So I hope this helps, guys. If you like content like this, if you like these just open rants without me trying to add any structure or teach a specific like concrete lesson, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe to the channel, of course, and I will see you in the next one.